The Art of Living, Part 2, The Four Cardinal Virtues. 5. How the Four Cardinal Virtues Work Together. When my kids turn 9, they get to go on a special trip with me to Rome while I'm leading a pilgrimage group there. To prepare them for all they are going to experience, I have them read ahead of time about the saints, art, and history of the city. One year, on the plane ride over the Atlantic, I was showing my son images of the art he would see that week inside the Vatican museums. Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, Caravaggio's Entombment of Christ, and Botticelli's scenes from the life of Moses. When we came to the Renaissance painter Raphael's depiction of the four cardinal virtues, my son asked me a question I'll never forget. "Dad, what are cardinal virtues?" Oh no, I was unsure how to answer. I had taught the four cardinal virtues to college students for many years, but I had never had to explain them to a 9-year-old. I paused for a moment to consider how I would present the cardinal virtues in a way that would be easy for a child to understand. Well, there are 4 important virtues we need to live life well and be happy. And these 4 virtues work together. Let me use an example related to our pilgrimage to explain each of these virtues. Our group had tickets to enter the Vatican Museum at 8:30 a.m. on Friday. This is one of the highlights of the pilgrimage, and the group is looking forward to the visit. It's very important we get there on time. If we're late, we will miss our entry time and we won't be able to visit. So we need to use our heads and think carefully about when the best time would be to leave our hotel if we want to get there for our 8:30 entry. If our hotel is about a 15-minute walk to the Vatican museums, what time do you think we should leave the hotel? At 8:15, he answered. Yes, that could work. It might be even better to leave earlier at, say, 8 o'clock, so we have an extra 15 minutes in case something goes wrong. But what if we decide to leave at 8:25? That would not be a good decision. We would not get there in time. But if we decided to leave at 4:30 a.m., that would be too early. We would be waiting outside unnecessarily for hours and would be too tired to enjoy the museum by the time we entered. So around 8 or 8:15 would be a good time to leave. In developing a good plan like this, we are using a virtue called prudence. Prudence helps us to make good decisions based on the goal. We begin with the goal in mind and then determine what is the best way to achieve it. Then I proceeded to give him an example for a second cardinal virtue, justice. Here's another thing to consider. The pilgrims paid for this visit to the Vatican museums. It is a key part of the itinerary. They are eager to see the Sistine Chapel and all the beautiful art inside the Vatican museums. But what would you think if I decided not to take the pilgrims this year? What if I told them I didn't want to go, and so I'm giving them the morning off for free time? Would that be good? No. Why not? It's not fair. You told them you were going to take them there. Exactly. It's not fair. I want to honor my commitment to the group. They paid for this. It's part of the plan. It would be unfair, unjust for me to back out of that commitment for no serious reason. This relates to a second cardinal virtue, justice. Justice is about our relationships with others, about having the habit of being fair and fulfilling during responsibilities to others by giving them what they deserve. I went on to explain that these first 2 virtues, prudence and justice, are not enough. I might sincerely want to be fair and take the group to the Vatican museums, which relates to justice, and I might develop a good plan to leave the hotel at 8 o'clock so that we can easily get there on time, which relates to prudence. But I can still get distracted or face obstacles on the way as I try to get the group to the Vatican museums on time. So even when we know the right thing to do and the right path to follow, we don't always do it. We are often tempted to abandon the right path for 2 reasons, either because we face some difficulty, pain, or suffering on the path, or because something else enjoyable and pleasurable entices us to leave the path. Imagine if we start to leave the hotel at 8 o'clock as planned, but there's a big rainstorm outside. It's wet, windy, and cold. Walking to the Vatican museums will be uncomfortable. I might be tempted to say, "It's too cold and wet. I don't like the rain. I'm going to be miserable. I don't want to go anymore." But if I let my fear of cold and rain control me, if I let my fear of suffering control me, I will stay in my warm, cozy hotel and fail to get the group to the Vatican museums. We all need a virtue that helps us rise above our fear of suffering, a virtue that enables us to persist against difficulties and do hard things for the sake of what is good. A virtue that helps us not shrink in the face of challenges or run away from discomfort. That cardinal virtue is called fortitude or courage. Now imagine another scenario. Let's say we leave the hotel at 8 o'clock a.m. on a beautiful hot and sunny day, and on our way to the Vatican museums, we notice an ice cream shop giving away free all-you-can-eat gelato. There's a long line with dozens of tourists waiting for their chance to delight in endless Italian ice cream. Because gelato tastes so good and is so enjoyable to eat, I might be tempted to join them. I might feel the sudden urge to jump into that line so that I too can experience the heavenly delights of the best ice cream in the world. Though standing in line to order gelato in itself is not bad, it is bad at this particular moment because it will delay us, preventing us from reaching the Vatican museums on time. So I need a virtue that helps me control my attraction to pleasure, like the pleasure that comes from the taste of gelato, so that I can stay on course and pursue what is good. That cardinal virtue is called temperance or self-control. Our lives hinge on these virtues. That is what I shared with my 9-year-old son on an airplane over the Atlantic years ago. Though a very simplistic explanation, it was my attempt to begin to capture what many wise human beings for thousands of years have identified as the 4 key virtues we need to live life well. They are known as the cardinal virtues, which we saw in chapter 1 is based on the Latin word for hinge. Think of these as the hinge virtues. We can say that the success of our lives hinges on how well we develop these 4 virtues. As the Bible explains, God's spirit of wisdom teaches self-control and prudence, justice and courage. Nothing in life is more profitable for men than these. Wisdom, chapter 8, verse 7. On the plane, I was showing my son Raphael's frescoes of the cardinal virtues which he painted in a room in the Vatican museums. On one wall, Raphael portrays fortitude, prudence, and temperance as women who each tell us something about the virtue she represents. Fortitude is clad in armor and shows her inner strength, holding a bent oak tree in one hand and petting a lion with the other. Prudence is represented with 2 faces. She has the face of a young maiden looking into a mirror, symbolizing self-knowledge and wisdom in the present, while she also has the face of an old man looking backward, symbolizing wisdom gained from past experience. Temperance is calmly holding back the reins of the fires of passion, exhibiting her self-control. Raphael depicts justice on the ceiling above. She is holding scales, symbolizing the fair balance between the interests and responsibilities of one individual and those of another. Raphael's frescoes highlight how each of the virtues work together to form a well-integrated human person. They begin to express some of what St. Thomas Aquinas taught about the interplay between these 4 cardinal virtues. Prudence is the virtue of doing practical reasoning well, or as Aquinas says, right reason applied to action. Justice directs a person to have good relationships with other people. It is the constant will to fulfill our responsibilities toward others, giving them what is due to them. The other 2 cardinal virtues help remove obstacles to live well-ordered relationships, obstacles related to weaknesses in our will. Our will is hindered in 2 chief ways. The first involves bodily desire for pleasure, especially enjoyment of food, drink, or sex. We can be enticed by something pleasurable that draws us away from what right reason would require, and in some cases it can lead us to do evil. We need, therefore, a virtue that moderates our attraction to pleasure. That cardinal virtue is temperance, which is the virtue involving well-ordered desire for pleasure. The second way our will is hindered in pursuing what is good is through fear of difficulties or suffering, or, as Aquinas explains, through being disinclined to follow that which is in accordance with reason on account of some difficulty that presents itself. We need a virtue that moderates our fear, and that virtue is called fortitude. Fortitude enables us to face difficulties in life well, so that we may do what is good even when things get hard. When others don't treat us well, when we are not feeling well, when a task we have to do is demanding, or when we need to do something that causes us inconvenience, discomfort, pain, or sorrow. These are the four hinge virtues. They can be seen as hinge virtues in the sense that all the other human virtues are related to one of these four. We also can say that our thriving in life, indeed, our very happiness, hinges on our developing these four virtues. Moreover, they prepare us for eternal life in heaven, disposing all the powers of the human person for communion with divine love. The rest of this book will focus on these four cardinal virtues themselves. With each one, we first will give a brief introduction to the virtue itself. This will be followed by chapters on the various sub-virtues we need to live each cardinal virtue. Also included will be chapters considering some of the key vices that undermine those virtues and offering practical suggestions on how to overcome those weaknesses. While we will draw much from Catholic teaching, the Scriptures and the saints, our principal guide through the four cardinal virtues will be St. Thomas Aquinas and his clear treatment on the structure of the four cardinal virtues, his wisdom on the virtues themselves, the necessary sub-virtues for each cardinal virtue, the various weaknesses and vices that undermine the virtues, and how to overcome those vices. Reflection questions. What were your impressions of prudence, fortitude, temperance, and justice before reading this chapter? With the insights of this reflection, how has your view of these virtues grown or changed? Which of the four cardinal virtues are you most excited to learn about and why? Which one do you think you need to grow in the most? Why? Read Wisdom, chapter 8, verse 7. Here, the Bible singles out these four virtues of self-control, prudence, justice, and courage. Why do you think the Bible says nothing in life is more profitable for men than these?